This is the tale of the absolute champion, and it begins in a battle arena. The protagonist, his throat dry, drinks some water and tosses the water sack aside as the host enthusiastically announces that this match features a rising star and former knight of Dinball. His name is Lucas, and he has slaughtered 10 opponents so far. The crowd roars in cheers as Lucas looks down at the protagonist and laughs deviously, while the host continues, declaring that his opponent is the absolute champion, Gil. Gil glances at the crowd as they curse him for being undefeatable, the spark in his eyes gone, and the match begins. Lucas takes a deep breath and charges at Gil. The host remarks that it is a full power blow and that there is no way he can dodge it. But Gil powers up and creates a barrier that deflects the attack, shocking everyone. The crowd yells at him to stop playing around. His opponent also curses at him before unleashing a barrage of attacks, but Gil swiftly dodges them all. Enraged, Lucas releases another move and declares that it is the end. At that moment, Gil grabs his sword and slashes in a single swift motion. The crowd gasps in shock as Lucas looks back at him. His body splits into two, leaving the arena in stunned silence before the host finally announces the winner. One of the watchers curses that he lost big again, and others join him in swearing at Gil. Despite this, our guy picks up the water sack and drinks from it, commenting that he is still thirsty. The crowd throws objects at him while cursing his name, but he leaves the arena quietly. At night, inside a cell, Gil sits alone while they serve him lavish food. The man delivering the meal remarks that, thanks to him, he made a fortune again today. He hands him a bottle of wine as a special treat. Gil picks up the bottle and the food. He begins eating and drinking. When he finishes, he returns the empty tray. The man asks if it tasted good, but Gil ignores him. The man grows annoyed that he did not even savor what was prepared for him. He reminds him that even if they call him the absolute champion, he is still his slave, and warns him not to get cocky. Gil reveals that he is a slave meant to kill for a crowd. If ordered, he fights anyone. If he can excite the audience, he lives another day, but if he loses, he dies. He is nothing more than a disposable toy and has survived 10 years in this arena. They call him the absolute champion, but he remains a slave. For 10 years, he has killed, eaten, and slept. He once believed that was enough, but lately an unbearable thirst has begun to torment him. His throat dries out as exhaustion takes over, and he falls asleep. He wakes up to a fire. Guards run through the halls while prisoners beg to be saved, but the guards shout at them to shut up, reminding them that they are only slaves. Moments later, an explosion kills the guards. Gil watches the chaos unfold while another prisoner wails that he does not want to die like this. The prisoner cries that he does not want to die without ever deciding anything for himself. Gil reflects on his own free will as the prisoner continues, saying that he wants to live freely without taking orders. Those words spark something inside Gil. He wonders if something like that exists within him as well, and suddenly he notices that his thirst has vanished. The roof begins to collapse above them. With all his strength, Gil punches upward and tears open a hole through the structure. The prisoner stares in confusion, realizing that Gil has broken his cell apart. Once safe from the fire, Gil asks him if someone can truly live by their own will. The man answers that they can. Gil escapes from the burning coliseum and steps outside into the open greenery. He wonders if this feeling is freedom. He jumps down and begins to walk. Although he has nothing left, he is no longer a slave. If they call him the absolute champion, then he will live by that name, even if no one can bind him anymore. He considers heading toward the kingdom of Bastel. While traveling through the jungle, he notices a girl being attacked by monsters. He realizes she is a mage and understands that whether he saves her or not is his choice alone. After a brief moment of thought, he decides that he is going to save her. The monsters overwhelm her shield, and it trembles on the verge of breaking. Fear grips her as cracks spread across its surface, until moments later, the barrier shatters completely. She squeezes her eyes shut and screams. But before the monsters can strike, Gil appears and eliminates them instantly. She slowly opens her eyes and stares at the defeated horde of monsters in confusion, wondering for a moment if she somehow defeated them herself. Unable to believe she possessed that much power, Gil calmly asks if she is all right. She freezes in shock before quickly wondering aloud who he is. He introduces himself, and she confidently remarks that he is lucky she was here, otherwise he would have been in danger. Gil simply replies that he understands. She proudly declares that her hidden talent must have finally awakened and that she defeated the monsters. Then she introduces herself as Misha and shares that she is an E-rank adventurer. Gil asks what that means. She stares at him in disbelief that he does not know, then explains that adventurers take on requests to hunt monsters or gather materials, adding that anyone can do it as long as they are strong enough. Gil comments that it sounds like a difficult job. Misha reasons that adventuring is the freest occupation in the world. Adventurers decide where they want to go and which requests they wish to accept. Gil considers her words before inquiring how he can become one. She informs him that the nearest guild is located in Sadra within the kingdom of Bastel, although she doubts he is suited for it. She examines him carefully and concludes that it is impossible. When Gil questions why, she replies that he does not even carry a weapon and that adventurers must fight monsters. She adds that someone with his physique would probably use a longsword. Gil considers the suggestion quietly. Misha suddenly reminds him that they do not have time for idle conversation, as there have been sightings of an A-rank monster in the forest. Gil prompts her about the ranking system, so Misha explains that ranks classify monsters and adventurers according to their strength, ranging from S to E. She adds that an S-rank monster is essentially a natural disaster where death is almost certain. Gil inquires whether monsters in this forest are truly that dangerous, and Misha replies that they are. She warns that even if he encounters something like a Kaiser Kong, he should never attempt to fight it. Gil gets curious about what it looks like, and she shares that it resembles a giant gorilla. Gil asks if it has horns, and she confirms that it does. He continues asking if it stands about 3 meters tall. Misha stares at him, questioning how he knows that. He silently points forward and wonders if it looks like that. A massive Kaiser Kong emerges and roars loudly. Misha immediately panics, unable to believe they encountered it. She urgently tells him that they must run, but she slips and falls to the ground. The monster charges toward her and swings its massive arm, but just before the strike lands, Gil blocks the attack with one hand. He casually remarks that it was a decent strike, and Misha stares in disbelief that he blocked an attack of that magnitude so easily. Gil calmly notes that he can decide whether he wants to run or fight, but Misha frantically tells him to run before he gets killed. She suddenly notices his arm beginning to glow. In the next moment, Gil throws a powerful punch and sends the Kaiser Kong flying across the clearing. Misha stares in disbelief. Yet despite the powerful blow, the monster only suffers a minor injury. The two immediately charge toward each other and begin exchanging heavy blows. Their strikes collide repeatedly as the battle intensifies. Misha watches in shock as the very air trembles from the force of their clash. Gil suddenly steps back and calmly remarks that playtime is over. He disappears from sight and instantly reappears behind the monster, driving a devastating punch into its head without hesitation. He lands on its back while the monster thrashes violently in an attempt to shake him off, but Gil quietly states that it is over. He strikes the monster with a precise, powerful blow, stopping it in its tracks. Misha stands frozen, completely overwhelmed by his strength, unable to believe what she just witnessed. She had thought the two of them were locked in an intense brawl, yet he handled the monster effortlessly. She looks at him in shock and demands to know who he truly is. Gil turns toward her and calmly announces that he now has a longsword. He then inquires whether he can become an adventurer. Still confused, Misha slowly replies that he can. Gil requests that she guide him to Sadra. She agrees as she was heading there anyway. Gil suddenly lifts her and states that they should get moving. She immediately protests and demands that he put her down. They finally arrive at the Adventurers Guild, and Misha remarks that reaching this place was quite a struggle. She recalls that when they first entered the town, Gil was stopped for looking like a barbarian, and at the tailor he even tried to pay with a monster pelt. He apologizes for the trouble he caused. Misha sighs, noting that they managed to buy proper clothes this time, so she will forgive him. She explains that once he registers, he will receive a guild card that functions as identification. He can also earn money by completing quests, but he must not cause trouble inside the guild, as violence is strictly forbidden. Gil acknowledges her warning and steps inside. He pauses in amazement, having never witnessed a place like this before. She nudges him, reminding him to register and assuring him that he will become a fine adventurer, confidently guaranteeing it even as an E rank. Some adventurers notice the bone weapon he carries and immediately mock him. Gil glances at them, curious about who they are, and Misha quietly responds that they are drunkards. She advises him to ignore them, reminding him that provoking a fight could prevent him from registering. Gil wonders whether he can defend himself if they attack first, but she tells him to stop thinking with barbarian logic. The men approach and complain that ignoring seniors is disrespectful, boasting about their superiority as adventurers. Gil apologizes, explaining that he is new and unfamiliar with the rules. One of the men sneers, accusing him of arrogance. Misha quickly apologizes on his behalf, but the man suddenly grabs her arm. She struggles to pull away, and he comments that since she is cooperating, she should pour drinks for them, while another man rudely orders her to stop complaining and obey. Those words trigger something inside Gil, a strange sensation rising in his throat. One of the men notices his expression and questions whether he has a problem with their behavior. He arrogantly proclaims that they are the law inside the guild, and declares that from today onward, the two of them belong to them as slaves. Gil quietly questions whether they intend to make him a slave again, and the man proudly confirms it. Gil's fury ignites, and he calmly declares that he will never forgive anyone who attempts to take his freedom away. The men stare at him in confusion, astonished by his size and presence. Gil announces that he came here to live as a free man and will not allow anyone to stand in his way. Misha hurriedly attempts to stop him. At that moment, a man appears behind them and calmly inquires about the disturbance. The troublemakers immediately recognize him as the guild master. Gil studies him carefully, noting that he must be strong. The men quickly fabricate a story, claiming that Gil was the one who tried to start a fight. The guildmaster, Lind, questions whether their claim is true. Gil calmly answers that he came only to register and has not caused any trouble. Lind nods in understanding, explaining that the guild has no use for anyone who starts problems before registering unless they possess exceptional skill. Gil proposes to prove his ability by defeating Lind. He laughs, amused, but accepts the challenge. They move to the training grounds where Lind explains the rules. The first person to fall or surrender loses. A staff member invites them to choose their weapons. Lind selects a sword and demonstrates a swift swing. The watching crowd gasps in admiration and cheers loudly, while Misha stares in amazement. One spectator leans toward her, questioning whether Gil has lost his mind. Lind was once an A-rank adventurer, and no one in the guild can defeat him. Despite that warning, Misha still cheers for Gil. Lind asks whether Gil truly intends to fight using a bone. Our barbarian calmly replies that it is his trusted partner. The match begins. Several spectators laugh, calling him insane for bringing a bone to a sword fight. Before Lind can react, Gil suddenly charges and swings. Lind barely manages to block the strike. His eyes widen as he realizes the bone is no ordinary weapon, and the two of them leap backward to regain distance. One spectator remarks that Gil attempted to end the match in a single blow, while another notes that Lind is obviously holding back. Lind's expression sharpens as he finally becomes serious and rushes forward again. Gil is struck by his own deflected strike and immediately receives a heavy punch, but the attack barely affects him. Lind smirks, commenting that this fight is becoming interesting. The host announces that Gil managed to withstand the attack, but Lind still has a trump card. He begins spinning his sword with incredible speed, creating violent currents in the air. Misha urgently warns Gil to watch out. The commentator explains that this is Lind's famous 5-hit combination from his Godspeed blade technique, capable of cutting through almost anything. Gil enhances his bone weapon and endures the entire assault. The moment Lind finishes, Gil launches a powerful counterattack, slamming him to the ground. He then raises his weapon for another strike, but Misha desperately shouts for him to stop. He halts the attack before it lands. The judge immediately announces that Gil is the winner. The entire guild falls silent in shock at his overwhelming strength. Lind slowly rises, unable to believe he lost. He calmly explains that a warrior of his level would never associate with troublemakers and promises that they will receive proper punishment. Lind turns toward Gil, asking if he truly wishes to become an adventurer. Using his authority as guildmaster, he officially promotes Gil to the rank of C-class adventurer. The hall erupts in disbelief, as it normally takes 5 years for someone to reach that rank. Lind offers his congratulations and announces that Gil has successfully become an adventurer. The crowd begins applauding loudly. He stands there in confusion, having not experienced something like this in a long time. As he notices Misha smiling and hears the crowd cheering for him, a strange warmth fills his chest. For the first time in years, Gil smiles.
Here I am.